posterity's sake on my tenure as town supervisor, which is ending at the end of this year. I want to invite Bob Simon to do the same for his role as receiver of taxes. We'll obviously keep it brief. And then we're going to invite our head of the building department, Jane Slavin, to talk a bit about the recent work related to her work with the odor control at Aloof. So those are my sort of top 3 or 4 items just to start with. And then we'll look at the sign-in sheet. And I just as a reminder to our good town residents, many of whom have been calling in saying they want to pay their taxes early related to changes in the federal tax rules that are still being discussed, and the town isn't in a position to advise people on that. So we just wanted to say that our clerk and others have researched the matter. The town will accept payment of taxes starting in the new year, as we usually do. Folks who want to try to prepay or show documentation thereof can certainly mail in their taxes as soon as they're able to figure out how much they owe using the post office, and that would perhaps suffice in terms of having a postmarked envelope. The tax bills will be available online as usual right at the end of the month. So on Wednesday next week by 5 p.m., the town will definitely have the tax bills online, and folks who may be watching TV or listening or talking to each other can know that they can pull it, they can download their bill and do whatever they think is best at that time, which won't include walking into town hall before the tax collection can actually start by law, which is after January 1st, 2018. So I just want to make that announcement. And then sort of onto the fun stuff just for a minute or two. I wanted to take just a moment to think about what's happened over the last 6 years in this town, not a comprehensive or encyclopedic review by any means, but just to answer a couple of questions that people might have, essentially about my tenure here. Number one, everybody says, why didn't you run for supervisor? After 3 elections, the last of which was a very decisive victory. Others were quite close. And I just want to say that in my mind, a self-imposed term limit is a good thing. It's a good thing for me, and I think it's a good thing for the town. 6 years in office is enough time really to learn a job, get a lot done without becoming kind of entrenched and unable to move on. I do want to say, I'll say this in several ways, but our career civil servants do a great job of running the activities of the town. And the rotation of the political players, I think, is a good thing, because civil servants are, tend to dedicate the majority of their career to town, and it's good to have leaders coming and going a bit and having some fresh eyes on things. I think it helps out the career civil servants, and it helps the town government to stay kind of in tune with trends in the community as well. I want to say just it has been an absolute honor to participate. As far as goals and accomplishments, I just want to say that I think most of us came into office whenever we were elected with 3 or 4 main things that we wanted to do. And I just wanted to tick off some of the things that I was thinking about when I first ran for election that I think we did pretty well on. Number one, with Rockland Psych redevelopment, we all know that the bulk of the big, nasty, vacant hospital buildings are now sold, in the process of being abated, and then demolished with a data center built in their place. So that's a great thing. And also plans are afoot for planning for waterfront park development and other uses of the land for municipal purposes, which is great. And we really had to get that core area dealt with, and it is dealt with in the town board in the year to come. I'm sure we'll make great progress as far as park development goes. Number two, I ran on trying to stop the hemorrhaging of money from our 2 town golf courses. And the contracting for private operations has saved millions of dollars, and I think the town board should be proud of that, and that the community should be happy with it, and I certainly feel like that was a success. Another item that I think has been really important over the last 6 years is just community access and ability to participate in government, and certainly improving our television systems so that all of the live TV that we're generating right now goes up on YouTube and people can look at it at their leisure. without necessarily coming out on a cold night is an improvement. And I think, and I want to credit Vicky Caramonte here, Alan Riff, really sort of, and all of us here in Town Hall, but those in particular, because one of our goals is to really help people with information and help them understand the dilemmas that government is facing and the kinds of pros and cons and cost benefits that we're looking at all the time with regard to critical services. And I think our office has provided a really great service to the town in that regard, helping people understand what's going on, dealing with their questions, obviously taking complaints and responding to them. And we've always put a lot of energy into that, and it's something I'm proud of. Lastly, I just want to say a word about some environmental sustainability projects. This is just sort of the brochure version of the last 6 years. But I'm particularly proud of what the town has accomplished in that regard. It's something that's been really important to me, and I know other town board members. But for example, the fact that we're getting 2,260 LED streetlights put up as we speak, this is a huge accomplishment for the town. It took a couple years in the development, and it's going to save in the neighborhood of $400,000 a year in energy costs and be good in terms of reducing greenhouse gas production from the energy production process. So great green infrastructure. You know, it's been such a pleasure to work with Jim Dean, who's a highway superintendent like no other, and is well regarded throughout the region, really, in terms of his understanding of and appreciation of issues related to water quality. And in our project at adjacent to the Homes for Heroes Veterans Housing Project, where we're ripping up a bunch of pavement and putting in a series of water treatment elements that will reduce flooding and improve water quality on the Sparkhill Creek, is something I think we should all be proud of. And we got money for that from the state, close to $1 million, and I think it's money well spent. And it's an exciting, really a regional scale green infrastructure project. And there have been other smaller ones along the way, the various demonstration projects with rain gardens and vegetative swales and other things like that. I just wanted to mention also that you know, I've been very excited to see the town investing in the sewer system, and I know that, you know, we're under the gun from time to time for overflows, and there's an real environmental importance to controlling that. And the town's invested heavily in the sewer system in stopping the infiltration of groundwater and rainwater into the collection system, which then leads to the overflowing the system from time to time. And so that investment is great. We got grants for that. We got cheap financing from the state, and we should be happy about that. There are a lot of other things that we could point to, but I just wanted to mention those 4 or 5 as I look back at some of the operational things that we've tackled at a town hall, and I'd like that to be sort of considered as perhaps in the category of accomplishments, although I will hasten to say, as I think I always do, that nothing happens without teamwork around here. And I've seen my role in large part as to look at town government with fresh eyes and say, how can I help push something forward that people may have thought of but hadn't kind of organized around to get done, found the money for it, and so on. The last thing I want to say, you know, and I'm working on some questions that Ann Pinzow asked me actually last week that we talked about, in terms of what in some ways the thing I'm most proud of as far as being a town supervisor is sort of an approach rather than a specific accomplishment. And I think that every elected person out there tries to stay away from the label of politician, because there's been so much kind of muck and mire associated with the word politician, and obviously there's cases of corruption and inappropriate, unethical behavior, and you know, in some ways I think our whole country has become quite disenchanted with politics. I come from kind of a more idealistic perspective. I'm very, very proud to live in a democratic country, and I think most of us on a good day we wake up in the morning and we thank our lucky stars that people fought and died for the right to vote, for civil rights, for the kind of government due process that we all hold near and dear, even though sometimes we'd love it if the building department could just go out and lock the doors on a stinky factory, or we could use vigilante justice to just do what we want when we want it. The fact is our country is built on laws. Our town government works according to laws. They're not always entirely clear, but we work very hard to make sure that we uphold them, and in that, lawfulness and fairness is what makes us really special, I think. So as I think back about things we did really well, I think when we do that, we should be proud. And setting a standard for that kind of public service is something that we should all strive for. I want to finish out just by saying a couple of thank yous. They're going to be very generalized because there just isn't enough time to go through, and it wouldn't be appropriate. But I want to once again thank the close-in staff members that I've had the chance to work with every day. Vicki and Alan, Jeff Bensick, who's not here right now, running finance. Janice Ganley is here. Our town attorneys, our town clerk, all the folks here in Town Hall, and the rest of the town department heads and employees who do show up every day and do work that's absolutely critical for public safety and health and welfare of townsfolk. I also really want to thank my family, my wife Rachel, and kids, sort of putting up with me through 3 really competitive campaigns and a lot of the sort of stress that goes along with public leadership. They've been wonderful. And lastly, and most importantly, all of the voters out there and town residents who have paid attention and come out and supported good government in one way or another. And for those who haven't voted, I think you're throwing away a very important franchise. So I just wanted to say that. I also want to welcome, I don't see Chris Day here right now. I met with him earlier today at the Town Supervisors Association meeting. We've taken him on numerous tours of town facilities. As the elected town supervisor, I think he's going to have every chance to do a good job. He's enthusiastic, he's smart, and I think everybody's going to try to make sure that he gets every possible support in bringing his ideas and leadership to the town. And I would, as I've said to him personally, and I'll say to everybody else, I continue to see the supervisor slot as basically a source of innovation in town government, and it has to be in the context of the really vast experience and kind of well-worn practices and traditions of our town departments. And so the goal is to try to see where we can do things a little better, a little faster, a little cheaper, while preserving what works really well. And with that note, I'll close off my thank yous to everybody here, to the fellow town council members here, and Attorney John Edwards, who's been great to work with, and folks here tonight. Thank you for coming out. That's my 2 cents. Thank you. Thank you.
Andy, since this is your last meeting, I'd like to hear a protocol because I have something to say also. I'd like to just take a moment to express my gratitude for Andy Stewart and his service to the town of Orangetown, both as a colleague of Andy's on the town board and as a citizen of the town of Orangetown. Andy has worked tirelessly on our behalf to better our town. Although there were times we disagreed on issues, quite a few, I could confidently state that through all those decisions, Andy's best interest was always the town of Orangetown, and that was always in his heart. He put bipartisan politics aside, and we always worked together across the aisle to get things done. During the time period that Andy was supervisor, I firmly believe Orangetown was improved for the better. We brought new, clean ratables to the town, improved our infrastructure, not only at the sewer department, but with the LED lights, which was under Andy's direction. We completed the rails to trails. We did the public-private partnership for the golf course, and we kept our taxes under the state cap. I have had a great pleasure working alongside Andy during this growth and consider him not just a fellow board member, but a good friend, and I hope we remain friends for a while. That being said, I'm very optimistic and confident that the incoming supervisor-elect, Chris Day, will give the job the same level of effort and make the same large leaps and bounds towards a better Orangetown, and I graciously welcome to Orangetown government. Chris had my full support during the election, and he will continue to have my support as his role as supervisor. In closing, I firmly believe Orangetown owes a debt of gratitude to Andy Stewart. It's not an easy position, and Andy excelled at it, and I wish him the best of luck in his future endeavors. Thank you, Andy.
Thanks very much, Paul. I'm just going to continue on here, if that's all right, because we do have, he's next on the list. I wanted to invite Bob Simon, who been a receiver of taxes for a good number of years, went out on an extended leave this year, and the duties of the receiver are being absorbed by the clerk's office next year, to say just a word or two with reference to his retirement.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, Town Board, and my fellow residents of Orangetown. December 31st of this year will mark the end of my term as receiver of taxes for the town of Orangetown. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve, and I thank the voters of Orangetown for their support. I'm leaving the office with a wealth of knowledge I will always treasure, along with the many people I've met and worked with. I've also learned to be open-minded, to value other people's opinions, and consider other ideas along with mine, to end up with a final result. As receiver, I tried to carry out the duties of my office with a sensitivity and informed judgment that are basic requirements for every position that deals directly with the public. The position takes a great deal of patience, tact, diplomacy, and willingness to listen to people. My relationships on a personal level are in a better place than they were, thanks to the many things that I have learned from many of you. My predecessor, the late Eileen Bonner, who served as receiver for 40 years, used to refer to the position as a labor of love. Well, I don't know about the love, but there was, at certain times, labor involved. My wish for everyone here is that you all continue to experience success, to feel fulfilled in all you do. I want to thank the Assessor's Office, Finance Office, the Town Clerk and her staff for their work in completing the recent tax cycles. I congratulate the new administration under Supervisor Day that they will govern wisely and represent all the people of this town, which I'm sure they will do. To Town Clerk Charlotte Madigan, and soon-to-be Receiver of Taxes, I wish her much success in her new duties. I'm not going away. I will still stay active in my community as I always have been. I now take my place among those who have served in this position before me with honor and pride. I thank you again for your support, wishing you all again, wishing you a very happy holidays and a healthy and prosperous new year 2018. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob. Now I'd like to move on with business by inviting Jane Slavin to the podium. As obviously the ongoing issue of the code enforcement related to the Aloof factory, and a lot of times folks come out to talk to us about that. We figured we should start out with your presentation and maybe answer some questions up front.
Good evening. Yes, so everyone's aware that the Aloof repairs and upgrades have been going on. On December 8th, we performed an inspection at 10 a.m. with the DEC also in attendance. The results of the inspection of the exterior and roof are: there are vent openings on the side of the building that were still just open vents. It seems that these do not contain any filter system or mechanical operation, so the air was just flowing freely. There is a strong perfume and plastic smell emanating from these locations. All inlet fans located on the roof were in operation. The new scrubbers were running, and a strong perfume and plastic smell was detected being released from the new scrubbers. There is a large chiller located on the side of the building, which is discharging water and what looks like small plastic pellets into a pipe that leads towards the Sparkhill Creek. The inspectors requested access to the interior to examine the filters installed on the scrubbers. This access was denied. Inspectors were advised that the factory had not been in production mode since 6 a.m. that morning. On December 11th, our office received a copy of the roof plan as requested. In evaluating the plan, there are 31 vents indicated on the roof plan. We were told that all are in operation. However, during the site inspection, our inspector indicated that he can see clear down into the factory. So we're not sure what these things are connected to. There are 5 stacks indicated which are governed by the DEC air permit, and we were told that they have multiple stage filtration systems. There are 12 wall-mounted exhaust fans located on the machinery high bay units on the roof that do not have any type of filtration. There are 6 wall-mounted exhaust fans located on the exterior walls that do not have any type of filtration, and 3 of which have been closed up. On Friday, December 15th, we requested access to perform a follow-up inspection, and we were denied due to the inclement weather. They didn't want anybody on the roof. Anthony Lawson has indicated that it is in his belief that all of the physical items related to the permit, the ZBA decision, have been completed. To date, we have not received a letter of compliance from Dr. Kolapara on the system's functionality as we requested. As well, this was also requested by a condition of the ZBA and in reference to the DEME letter dated May 3rd, 2017. Item number 14th of the performance standards, resume of operations. Applicants are to indicate on the plan chimneys, vents, exhaust openings, and equipment they serve, as well as unvented operations that might release any air pollution to the outside atmosphere. Aloof's application indicated, and I quote, "No air pollution will be released to the outside atmosphere. Addition of building ventilation systems and carbon filtration will dilute potential ambient building exhaust emissions to below odor thresholds." At the ZBA hearing on May 11th, the attorney representing Aloof stated that, and again I quote, "Diluting below odor thresholds and the added filtration will no longer smell outside of the plant." The building ventilation proposal dated March 14th, 2017, which was prepared and submitted by Aloof to the ZBA, indicates a more dilute stream will be insurance against odor issues being emitted from the building. Per our last inspection, the strong perfume and plastic smell was still being emitted from the building. Per the ZBA performance standard condition number 3, the applicant's initial and continued compliance with the performance standards shall include the following: the installation completed within 8 weeks of issuance of permit, inspections and/or testing on the site while installations are in operation, and those inspections are to be as deemed necessary by the building department, Department of Environmental Engineering, or a town's expert. Condition number 4 of the ZBA performance standards: DEME and the building department shall investigate any alleged violation of performance standards, and if a violation exists, shall notify the ZBA of the occurrence or existence of a probable violation thereof. So with that said, what are the next steps? As it seems the upgrades proposed and completed by Aloof have not addressed the issues, and that our inspection requests have not been honored, we are moving forward with notifying the ZBA of our findings. Per condition number 4, if after holding a public hearing on due notice, the ZBA finds that a violation occurred or exists, the ZBA may revoke and rescind this approved decision and any building permit and/or certificate of occupancy that has been issued. Based upon this approval decision, shall also be deemed revoked and rescinded, which shall be in addition to any other legal remedies that the town may pursue. Second, per the Town Board Resolution number 3, TRC Solutions has been hired to identify the odor sources, odor sampling, analysis, and modeling. Number 3, the town attorney's office has been actively working toward prosecution of the violation of condition 3A, which was the non-completion within the 8 weeks. Summonses have been prepared for the following: denying inspector access to perform inspections, incomplete work per ZBA decision, release of water from the chiller, and the presence of plastic pellets in the area of the Spark Hill Creek. The Water Control Division of the DEC has been notified of the possible pollution of the Sparkill Creek, and the Rockland County Drainage Agency and the Health Department will also be notified by our department. Again, we understand the frustration expressed by the neighbors. While it may seem that nothing is being done, we are working diligently to enforce the provisions of our town code and the ZBA decision. Each step needs to be carefully taken to ensure a viable solution and prosecution if prosecution is required. That's it.
Jane, thank you so much for that very specific update.
Welcome.
The next item on our agenda would be opening our public comment period. So with that, I'll make a motion that we have our public comment period. Do I have a second from Tom Divany? All in favor say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. A reminder to folks that we do have a sign-in sheet. Let's see if anybody used it. All right. I have 3 people signed in. Esther Baitler? Esther, can I just borrow a minute from your time for a very special presentation to you?
Sure, but not a problem, as long as you give me 10 minutes to speak. Which John Edwards already approved of it.
Notice the clock is not running right now. Esther, I just want to personally recognize you for your help bringing attention to issues of pedestrian safety in the town of Orangetown. Looks like the newspaper wants to take a picture, so turn around and look. I know you like to be on camera, so.
Absolutely.
This is from the town board, myself and Charlie Madigan, in recognition of your commitment and dedication to pedestrian safety. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you to Vicki, who really initiated the pedestrian safety for the sidewalks. I'm still waiting for highway to make it in gold. Eventually it will happen. With Jim Dean's promise. Good evening, Supervisor Stewart and Town Board members. My name is Esther Ann Baylor, and I'm a consumer who lives at the Kathy Lucan Independent Living Center in Sparkill. Number 1, I would like to know why you keep saying, Andy, on the November 28th Town Board meeting that I have to adhere to 3 minutes, and you did say it.
You do have to adhere to 3 minutes.
No, I changed that. That ruling has been changed and updated by Vicki and myself to 10 minutes. The board just has to approve it. Do I hear a second? I'd also like to know what is going on at Aloof with the odors. None of us want to live in a toxic town. It is disgusting. I take the bus to go to work at Palisades Mall and I smell it. This is totally profound. I would like to know what is going to happen. People are getting sick and they're going to die. I don't understand what it's going to take to close this company up. Whether it's a violation, a summons, something has got to be done. Now, not later. It's a disgrace. You guys sit there quietly, but you're not saying what's going to happen. I'm concerned. I've spoken to people on Cottage Lane, where my sister lives, and they smell it. Kids are being allowed to go out for recess at Cottage Lane. You've got to be kidding me. John, I'd like to know what's going to be done. I mean, it's horrible. I speak to doctors over at Rockland Pulmonary who tell me they smell these odors. And they ask me what I can do. I mean, it is uncalled for.
You know what? It's very nice of you to provide a written version of your memo to us, which all the town board members are reading right now. So thank you very much, Esther.
I just also want to say something about Vicky, and I have a right to.
Maybe you could make that your last comment of the night.
Andy, without me, there wouldn't be these public comment sessions.
You do have a point there. So what would you like to say about Vicky?
I think that nobody could fill her shoes. I disagree with the oncoming new supervisor. He needs to retract his way of thinking. It's not right. She's been an asset to this town and an inspiration. You've got to be kidding me. Nobody can do the work that Vicky has done. Nobody.
She has been absolutely wonderful as an assistant.
And I really think he has no right to say that he's getting rid of her. Maybe what we need is a Democratic board.
Hear, hear.
I really think it's unfair of him to get rid of her.
Esther, I encourage you to tell that to Chris yourself.
I think he should reverse a decision
but
to
right
keep
now,
her on.
we
Andy,
appreciate.
let me finish.
Anybody have any suggestions?
I don't think it's right. Why do you think he should have the right to let her go? On what terms?
Michael, maybe you could stand up and act like you're coming to the podium. That might help. And it's just a matter of law. And to those listening, the town supervisor
But
gets
Andy,
to make
that's
two
wrong.
appointments.
He's not being
One is an
logistical.
executive assistant, and one is the finance director.
Andy's the one who hired Vicky. I'm sure he doesn't want her to go, but Chris Day is the newly elected supervisor, and he does get to make that appointment.
He doesn't. That's
He
just
does,
the
he does.
problem.
Yes, he does.
He does, Esther.
You guys are being
Esther,
too lenient.
Esther, you have to let the next speaker. There's a lot of people here that want to speak.
Good luck to you, Andy.
Thank you very much, Esther. Mr. Mandel.
I want 5 minutes, Supervisor.
Forget about it.
Good evening, Supervisor Stewart, members of the Town Council. I'm Michael Mandel, a resident of Pearl River. First, I just want to thank you for putting the agenda up on the website on Monday, marked draft. That's all I ever asked for. It makes it much easier when you come to the meeting. What I want to speak to really is civility at the town land use board meetings, and I say land use board also, seems to have been lost with attacks and shouting taking center stage, rather than reasoned comments or complaints. For example, at the last town board meeting, the subject of loop plastics took center stage. The meeting disintegrated into yelling and accusations by some, not all, attendees, directed at the town board during the public comment period. And upon completion, a response from the town board, members, for the most part from the public, exited the meeting room. This is not the solution, and if they had remained, they would have been updated on the current status of the town's progress to correct the situation. After they departed, the new Director of Building, Zoning, Planning, Administration, Enforcement, Jane Slavin, who was prepared to speak, came up to the podium and updated the board and the few members of the public who remained. If people had stayed, many of their questions and concerns, but not all, might have been answered, as we saw tonight. Supervisor Stewart should take some responsibility for the situation. He should have had Director Slavin speak before the public session as he did tonight. especially when seeing who was in attendance and realizing that the subject of aloof would most definitely be brought up. If Director Slavin had spoken first, town residents may have acted differently, resulting in a rational dialogue. Further, part of the problem was and is the inaction of a New York State agency, namely the Department of Environmental Conservation, the DEC. If we have a sewage spill here in this town, the DEC is here the next morning writing up a summons and a fine. Not a small fine, a large fine, okay? Residents should also be contacting their state representatives, namely Senator Carlucci and Assemblyperson Jaffe, and have them contact the DEC, and maybe they can get them moving. Andy, I just want to say, working with you as a member of the Planning Board and the Ethics Committee, you know, it was a pleasure to work with you. You're a consummate professional, and I wish you all the best in your new endeavors.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And just one last note, I'd like to wish those, or let me say one last note to all my politically correct residents and viewers in attendance. I would like to wish those of the Jewish faith a happy Hanukkah, and to my fellow Christians, a very Merry Christmas. And if I have offended anybody, I'd just like to say, God bless you. Thank you. Have a good night.
Somat Konduru.
Hello.
Welcome.
Okay. I called earlier. I spoke to a couple of people. I think one from finance and another, I can't recall. I wanted to know if we can pay the taxes before the end of the year. As you know, because what's going on with the new tax act, we are limited to 10,000. So the accountants have been advising to pay, if you can, instead of on January 1st, paid, you know, a few days before. I know you did say something about it. Wasn't quite clear. The question is, can we pay or not? I was told no. No?
I can elaborate on that, but it would be proper to do it after the meeting since I already made a statement about it. If you'd like to stick around and obtain more information from the town, you're welcome to do that. Or via email is fine as well. For folks who might not have been here at the beginning of the meeting, the reason for that is that the town clerk has been advised she can't open the collection office before the new year. The bills will be printed and available online for download on Wednesday night next week. Those who would like to download their bill and mail it in from a post office, thus obtaining a postmark on their envelope, are welcome to do that. But the tax collection will take place as usual in the beginning of January. And that's, the town is not in the business, unfortunately or fortunately, of trying to interpret what the federal government may or may not do or what its implications might be for one or another homeowner. I personally, share the frustration of many people, not just with the high taxes, but with the confusion around taxes. The town will collect them and issue the bills and collect them, but does not have the legal ability to invite everybody in before the collection starts and process those payments before we're allowed to do so, according to the New York State Comptroller's advice. So that's the answer that you're going to get for tonight. If there's some sort of a change, then but it appears to me that is the consensus view, and in any case, what the implications of the federal actions are indeterminate at this point. So we can only speak to how the town works. And those are the processes which we've identified as appropriate and legal.
According to this, I printed out something. What's not deductible is the state income tax, state and local income taxes, but you could deduct the property taxes. That's, if you like to look, I have a printout here.
I would hesitate to give tax advice in public on TV.
State and local taxes and in New York State income taxes, and it's capped at 10,000.
No,
but again,
so let's listen.
Andy's right. You should consult with your tax attorney or your accountant.
Thank you, sir. By raise of hand, is anybody else here to speak during the public comment period? I'm seeing right in front here. Ma'am?
Hi, thank you all and good luck also. I wanted to say it's a very appropriate role of government to safeguard the welfare of its citizens. And so regulations used to protect the safety of its citizens, be they environmental or other ones, are very important and very good. However, government then also has a responsibility to make sure those regulations are reasonable, purposeful, measured, and never used to harass individuals. In my personal experience with my home, we've been told our driveway is 6 inches too wide because the builder had it flare out a little at the end, and we had to dig it up. We've been told we have boats in the driveway and they had to be moved to the back of the house. And I now know that I can't have a clothesline to air out the linens. I mean, I have a dryer, but when I want to get my linens fresh, I like to air them out. So thank God I have a porch where I now hang my linens, which I guess doesn't look too good, but it does the job. So I think the point is regulations can be a very good thing and can be used appropriately to keep our residents safe, but regulations can be misused, and they can be used politically, as we saw happen with the fines and the unfair treatment of the nonprofits, and they can be used personally by people in the neighborhood to target people in the neighborhood. And this becomes even more important as the fines are now very steep. So my request to you is that maybe you look carefully at the regulations, both the ones you're going to make and the ones that are on the book, and make sure that they are reasonable, purposeful, and even-handedly used.
Sounds like sound advice. Thank you. By raise of hands, is anybody else here to speak in the last row in the back there, sir?
Hi, thank you. My name's Alex Gadd, resident of Blauvelt. I was listening to Ms. Slavin's testimony or her report, and two things struck me that I'd like clarification on because I'm not an expert. One is the ZBA meeting that allowed this roof plan to go ahead, excuse me, sorry, talked about the roof plan, but clearly there are events on the side of the building, and I'm curious or frustrated or concerned why those were never addressed as part of the remediation plan. That's one, and I don't know if this is the right place to ask it, but because the information was introduced here, I'm asking it here. The second is more concerning. We were quoted, the attorney from Aloof was making definitive statements about what the results of finishing that plan would result in as part of getting the approval from the ZBA. And those statements are made under oath. So I'd like to know what penalties can be invoked against someone who clearly makes incorrect statements under oath, because this is going on, and I know you all are trying, and I know everyone's trying except Aloof, and I'd like to know why we can't ramp it up beyond the DEC-based penalties to look at people who come into the ZBA to influence the ZBA under oath and make clearly incorrect statements to influence the decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. Allison.
Allison Sullivan, Blauvelt, New York. I actually didn't really prepare too much. I just want to say good luck, Andy.
Thank you.
I also want to thank Jane. She's probably done more in her 7 weeks than John G. did in his 23 years in Orangetown. And I think that is the frustration that the residents have felt. She has found out more about that building, and what we've been saying all along, she is finally accomplishing, hopefully. We will see. I have a letter to the ZBA dated May 27th, 2010. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but it just really proves the fact that this should have been a red flag a long time ago. And I'm wondering what we can do to make sure that this doesn't happen again. It goes on and on, but it says, on or about May 1st, 2010, I was asked to provide comments to the ZBA on the proposed expansion of Aloof Plastics. The following are my comments. He goes in and states 6 comments. One of them is, applicants suggest no air pollution will result in resume of operation and equipment section. This is not correct and should be addressed. These are things that we've gone over and over and repeating, and I want to know how we can stop this from happening. But in the very end, he states, over the course of the last several years, this office has logged significant odor complaints. Since August of 2005, the Air Pollution Control Bureau has received approximately 45 complaints. The majority of the complaints surround this facility. Complaint inspections show that odor off-site exists in the range from slight to strong. That was 2005. Why did we not know more about this? Why was this not stopped? And then I have a couple questions. Have you heard from the DEC on what their plan B is, and if they're going to, I know Jane mentioned scrubbers. Are they chemical scrubbers? What kind of scrubbers are they putting in? And I had one other question. Oh, I know. Has the board considered prohibiting manufacturing using plastics based on this experience now? Can we do that? And then I have a code here of prohibited uses, and I think I've asked this before, but this is one more question. 4.41, manufacturing uses involving primary production of the following products from raw materials. This is prohibited uses, and it goes into numerous ones, but in the list is plastic materials and synthetic resins. How does this apply to Aloof? So that's my question, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Good questions. Is anybody else here to speak during public comment period? Heather?
Good evening, Town Board. Heather Hurley, Pearl River. First, I just wanted to thank Andy and Vicki and Alan for the past 6 years and for all the work that you have done for the town. We may not have agreed on everything, but we were able to discuss it civilly. And so thank you for everything that you've done for the town. Vicki, thank you for always being so responsive and attentive to the public's needs. And Alan, thank you for serving as deputy supervisor and former running mate as well. I've learned a lot and really respect you as well. I also just wanted to thank Jane Slavin as well for your thorough update tonight. You know, these are just things that members of Clean Air for Orangetown have been saying for the last 2 years. We've been documenting pellets on the side. We've been documenting open permits for carbon filtration systems, and it's nice to know that it's finally validated tonight because Jane is actually doing a job that John Giardello should have been doing for 23 years, so shame on John Giardello. I was just wondering if the environmental attorney is going to be hired. I didn't see it on the agenda. Is that part of this tonight? You're voting on that. Okay,
It's on the agenda.
I just wanted to know exactly what the intent was for hiring the firm. You know, are they being hired to bring Aloof to court? Are they being hired to seek injunctive relief? Something that this town board did not do or follow through with last year. What exactly is the money being spent on? And what is the success rate of outcomes in favor of municipalities against large corporations? And the last thing I just wanted to say was that reading on the agenda, I'm very disappointed that the hearing to amend the town code on odors is now pushed back for another month. I mean, this is something that the town should have known, and this should have been posted 3 days prior to the beginning of the hearing. And, you know, it's only going to set this back another month, and this was being used to enforce and validate odor reports. and now it's being set back another month.
We're opening the hearing tonight, but it will be a continuing discussion.
Okay. And lastly, I just wanted to say Merry Christmas, Happy End of Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year to everybody, and enjoy the holidays. Thank you.
Is anybody else here to address the town board? Yes, Mr. DePrisco.
Good evening, Tom DePrisco, resident of Pearl River in Orangetown. Just two things. On your agenda, I think it's item number 22, you're going to discuss the possible plans, the scheme for the new town hall. You know, I think I've made it clear, I've written about this. If you're going to build a new town hall, can you consider some kind of senior citizen recreation room for our senior citizens? They're a growing population here, according to the last census data. Their population, 65 and older, is over 18%. I'm sure it's going to continue to grow. They've been very loyal, and I'm not 65 and older, but they've been very loyal taxpayers to the town. I think other towns in Rockland County have a senior citizen center. So I would hope if you're going to build a new town hall, consider some kind of room or multi-use room for them or maybe the youth. Second thing, I looked on the website with regard to the LED conversion map. I didn't see anything on the side of my side of Pearl River. You know, I saw all these other areas, you know, I think plans 1 through 7, but it didn't seem like anything on my side of Pearl River, Middletown Road, Norrichon area, even on the other side of 304 was indicated. I'm sure it's going to happen, but I guess that's going to be much later on. Maybe you could address that.
It'll all be done in about 4 months, right?
It's less than that. They're moving really quickly, doing about
Thank you.
20 lights a week. They're already up by Dutchess and Orangeburg Road. So
Thank you. Appreciate it.
way over, absolutely.
Appreciate it.
There's an updated map that should be posted by the end of the week.
Thank you, Vicki. Thank you. I also want to compliment Ms. Slavin. Very transparent and informative report tonight with regard to Aloof. You know, I've been learning a lot about it, but very transparent. And I'm hoping that since unfortunately, the business refused access, maybe since the weather's been a little warmer the past few days, I'm sure the snow's melted on the roof. Maybe you can get access up there also. But thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others for comment tonight before we move along? Yes, sir.
Vinny Lupi, Blauvelt. I'd like to reiterate my concerns with Aloof, and Jane had mentioned the DEC. There's some summonses involved. I want to know if they did any actual water testing. You said they saw particles of plastic, but was there any chemical analysis type water testing done on the water coming out of the factory or wherever it was found where the particles were? And at a past meeting, I had asked, in regards to Linen Choice, they're going for variances. If that's to be approved and for any reason that sale does not go through, does Aloof get to take hold of those variances and the building permit? Like, can they use that permit for themselves? That's it. Thank you.
Any other hands up for public comment tonight or questions? Not seeing anything, I'll make a motion to close the public comment period. Do I have a second from over here? From Jerry Batari, all in favor say aye. I'll just pass the microphone to town board members who might want to make any response at this time as far as clarifying questions asked by town residents, starting on the left over here, if you want, with Paul. Don't feel on the spot if it's...
No, I don't. Normally you go first, Dan.
Sorry.
That's why you threw a curve for me today.
Anybody who wants to go ahead.
I'll try to answer some of the few things I do know. I know that the water testing was, the DEC told us they notified their water department. I forget the exact name of it. Whether they did testing or not, we have no idea at this time. The DEC has not been fully cooperative. I wish they'd be a lot more cooperative and be more hands-on with us. George does answer the emails, but sometimes the answers are as questionable as the questions we're asking. So they have not been very cooperative. I'm going to let Tom answer a few of the other questions about Lynn and Choice and stuff, but as far as I know, Lynn and Choice has, the variances have been passed. The variances they were asking for were for loading docks, but there was already an approved building there, much larger, for manufacturing, and they changed it to warehouse. But Tom can speak better on that, because that's more his domain.
Well, first of all, as far as the council that we'll be discussing, Carter, Ledyard, and Milburn, we're bringing them in because they have expertise in environmental and air permitting laws. So, you know, I did the research and we looked at a couple companies. I spoke with Christine Fazio, who's the managing partner of this law firm, very highly respected. She has 10 years experience with the EPA and highly qualified. And, you know, we were expecting a lot more once they did the improvements to this factory. And the residents and the town board are not happy that you know, things that were promised haven't, the promise haven't been kept. So, you know, I decided I wanted to get an attorney's office that could represent us, dealing with the DEC, enforce environmental compliance, you know, advise us regarding legal strategies and possible litigation, and, you know, to achieve compliance with air quality and odor issues. That's what we want. We want experts to advise us. I mean, we have a great attorney's office, but this is very niche kind of area of law, and I thought, and the board agrees, that we need someone who has you know, a chip at the table that is on par with you know, the attorneys they've hired. So that's the whole reason. I've talked to Christine Fazio. She's been, you know, calling me, and I've been calling her, getting her information regarding what's gone on, what's going on right now, the history of Aloof, the history of the complaints, the history of our relations with DEC. And we really want them to advise us on this, because everyone says we need Plan B. This is part of Plan B. As far as, and John can correct me if I'm wrong, there was an approval for 280,000 square foot light industrial warehouse. They approved a 170,000 square foot warehouse. That approval is an approval for the owner of that property and the applicant. It's approval for warehouses. If they wanted to come in and change the use to light industrial, they'd have to get, they'd have to go in front of the planning board again, and if they needed variance, they'd have to get variances. What they have is an approval for a warehouse, 170,000 square feet. But it's not just, if someone wanted to use that approval with the same plans, you know, I'm sure they could do that. But that's where we are with that.
Let me just go one thing to jump on what Tom was saying. That doesn't mean that our town attorneys stop what they're doing and we're waiting for these new attorneys. As Jane has said, there are several areas which we can go after them, and that's been in progress, which is that they didn't meet the deadline, that there were still open permits, then they're going back to the ZBA to get that reneged and take legal actions on that. So our town attorneys are still doing their end of it as much as possible. These guys are just to help us really to keep the DEC's feet to the fire and to match their environmental attorneys to push them to do the right thing. I mean, we're trying to, every avenue we can to protect our citizens. And this is one more avenue we think will help. It will help our town attorneys. It's not in place of, and it's not stopping them from what they're doing already. I just want to make that clear.
And it's not just about Aloof. It's about everyone, every corporation or company that's in that industrial corridor. We want compliance with air quality and odor issues for all those companies. So, you know, after we vote on this, and hopefully we have enough votes to pass it, I'll be talking to Christine Fazio tomorrow, and she'll be starting the work immediately. And then we also, TRC is going to do its sampling again. They say they want to start in January. I mean, I'll talk to Jane about that. I would like a definitive answer that they're, you know, and I don't know if we'll get it. Maybe we'll just have to do testing that they're in compliance with the ZBA performance standards. We may never get that, but TRC wants to do their testing. And again, we voted last board meeting to have TRC do testing in the facility, odor testing, air quality testing, that we really haven't gotten any of that except for the stack test they've done. So that's where we are with TRC. Andy, good luck with what you're going to do. I mean, 6 years under the cap, Chase, New York City Football Club, the LED, that's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
And everyone, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year's Eve. See you next year.
Jerry, you're up.
Thank you. Jerry?
Yeah, I'll start off by saying wonderful job. It's been a pleasure. I remember when, well, we started, well, 2 years ago for me, but we worked together before that.
It's always been a pleasure.
Yes, and good luck. Mike, sometimes you do things and it happens and you sit down and you say, well, that was stupid. Why didn't we do it this way? Well, we picked up on it a lot quicker this time. And as a matter of fact, Paul put out an email this evening before we got here saying, don't forget Jane starts. So, you know, we get kicked in the head and sometimes it just takes a little bit of time. But I think that we are moving in the right direction. Hopefully, all the things that are working, we're starting to come into the different facets and putting them all together, and hopefully that'll happen. That's pretty much it. Again, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next year. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Moving on with our agenda for tonight. The first item is our public hearing on the regulation of devices in the public right-of-way and easements. It's my understanding that this will open a conversation tonight. It will be continued to a date that I need to fill in here for in early February, I think.
Next workshop is January 9th, regular town board is January 16th.
Yeah, but I think
Don't we have something on the 3rd?
I think we might need to go to. I think it was February. 6th.
Yeah, February 6th.
Yeah, maybe the 6th. So I'll make a motion to open the public hearing on devices. Second from Tom Divney. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Do we want to bring our counsel, legal counsel? We have them in the audience.
That'd be great.
Do we have anyone from Farragut Lynch? Oh,
Okay, sorry, I didn't recognize you.
it's Mary Marzola. All right, Mary Marzola. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, if you could just come up to the podium and just state the town board has had a chance to review this, obviously, but we only just had received kind of an edited version of the proposed amendments, and the town folks haven't had a chance to look at it yet. So we wanted to just kind of put it on the table, have you describe it a little bit, and then continue the discussion at a meeting in the new year.
Sure. Good evening, everyone, members of the board, members of the public. My name is Mary Marzola. I'm from the law firm of Farragut Lynch, McCartney, and Nugent, and we're serving as special counsel to the board with respect to this particular proposed law that's up for a public hearing tonight, and that involves the regulations of devices in public ways and easements. And what that involves is that the town is going to be considering adopting a local law to regulate permanent attachments of non-utility devices to utility poles that are in public right-of-ways. What has been ascertained is that historically, Orange and Rockland Utilities has followed a policy and practice of granting non-utility third parties licenses to permanently attach devices to poles that are located in the public way. O&R charges a fee for these licenses, but O&R does not secure any protections for the town. And that's where this regulation comes in. O&R, in granting these licenses to non-utility third parties to perform work on public ways, on these utility poles located in public ways, does not provide for any insurance protections for the town, does not provide for any other legal protections for the town, such as hold harmless agreements. O&R also does not provide any information or notice to the town of where and when such work will be conducted. O&R also does not provide any information regarding the licensing status of the contractors who are performing work on these poles. And so because of that, the town is seeking to examine this law to ensure the protection of the public health, safety, and welfare for the issues arising out of that practice and policy. Does that answer your questions?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, does anyone have any further?
No, that was
Okay.
pretty good.
It's very clearly stated. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think anybody actually signed in for
Mike-
this one, but
Mike,
is there a
you want-
hand up, Mr. Mandel?
Good evening, Supervisor Stewart, members of the Town Council. Again, Michael Mandel, resident of Pearl River. Just a quick thing. In today's times, and they are dangerous times in this country, we must know who is working on any utility, whether it be gas, electric, or water. Therefore, it's written in the thing, a definition of the installer, and I'll quote, said installer shall be appropriately licensed by the County of Rockland Department of Consumer Affairs so that all appropriate insurance and other protections for the public are in place and duly filed with the town clerk before any installation. Now, when someone who cannot be identified is observed working on a pole or parking a truck by the reservoir, the police in many cases are called, which takes them away from other duties. If a permit is on file and they know ahead of time that people will be working on a pole or whatever else that are not identified as utility workers, it stops an unnecessary call. And our police can perform their proper functions out there, which is the protection of the public. So I think this is a very important law, along with the other things that are written in here, and I definitely support it. Hopefully it'll be passed and that other people in the town will speak to it for the reasons that it's there. It's for the safety, it's for having a standard, and everything should have a standard. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for your comment. By a raised hand, is anybody else here to speak on this particular topic in the public hearing? I'm not seeing any hands up, so we're going to assume the answer is no.
Continue it on February 6th, Dan?
So, right, so our next town board, I guess first of all, we want to close or adjourn the public hearing to continue.
We'll close the public comment, or do we want to close the public?
No,
All right, you'll just
open.
adjourn it to the 6th.
Yeah, we adjourn the public hearing on the regulation of devices and public rights of way and easements to February 6th at 8:05. How does that sound? Do we have another one at 8:00?
We do have one at 8:05 that you can amend now too. I think the other one's the performance standards, so you remember make this one.
Let's just do this one at 8:15. That sounds good. All right, so February 6th at 8:15 p.m. I'll make a motion for that. Do I have a second from over here?
Second.
Dom Divney, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Are we going to declare lead agency tonight or not?
Why not?
Yeah. So we can go to number 3.
So, you want to make a motion for declaring lead agency?
Yeah, we'll declare the town board a lead agency and say there's no neg deck involved.
We don't actually have a declaration
I think we
under
do.
secra.
I think we do.
So,
Here we go.
and I just want to note that since I am not going to be around to review this in any forthcoming information, I'm going to abstain from more votes on this matter. But you do have a town board majority here if they wish to go forward. We've already set a date to continue the hearing. As far as the secret declaration goes,
All right, we can.
we don't really,
All right,
we
we'll
don't have
do it.
anything
We'll
for
do it on the
that.
6th. We'll do it on the 6th.
So why don't we leave that
Yeah,
to
we'll
be,
leave it and we'll do it
that
all
needs
on
to
the-
be filled in, so thank you, Tom. Item number 4 is the,
Do we have another public
yeah,
hearing?
didn't we vote on Yeah. So we continue the public hearing on the attachments to polls.
Item number 4 is the next public hearing.
We have another public hearing. And this public hearing is to amend Chapter 14C having to do with filming and declare the town board's intent to serve as lead agency. So for starters, I will make a motion that that we open a public hearing. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
From Valentine, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So we have a public hearing. Since I worked on this, I will just summarize it briefly, and then we can see if anybody's here to talk. The town has, in past years, generated significant revenues from the film permitting activity above and beyond the costs of extra police hours, which are compensated by the film companies. There are issues that come up. It's been seen as successful. Over the last year or so, revenues have plummeted. There seems to be some confusion. There's no doubt that there are various ways that municipalities handle film permitting, and I'm sure there are better ones and worse ones. The intent of this proposal here is very modest. It's just it's a process correction that would lead to a simpler process, and if the town board wants to take up more kind of complicated issues down the road, then I encourage them to do so. Orangetown has been very popular among film scouts. The revenues have fallen off significantly, and in my conversations with folks involved, they felt like these corrections would help. The only really substantive correction that we made to the town permitting law for filming here, there's a little bit of window dressing here and there, but essentially what it does is it just places the matter entirely within the authority of the police department to authorize the permit. It reduces the runaround on the part of permittees, and it makes the police can evaluate the permit as they already do for safety issues, for the need for policing or not. They're the ones on staff late at night who are able to respond to incidents if they come up, and they're the ones that can collect the money and turn it over to finance to streamline that. And so that's it. So you'll just see, if you look at the town law, essentially just goes through and it puts in the police chief as the point of contact and authority for issuing a permit. As always, the permits that need approval from, say, the highway department or the parks department, if there's parkland involved, would need to get those sign-offs, and the police would just look to see if the other departments had any issues, and then issue the permit if it was okay to issue. So that's the intent. There's a couple of matters which are addressed here, which are really minor. A small increase in fees, and some language that I pulled in, and this has been shared with the town board, related to just clarifying. For example, you know, if it rains hard and the film permit has to be can't be acted upon at the discretion of the town, the fees could be returned or the permit could be rescheduled. Making an explicit exemption for news media that might be filming or other very low impact kind of family, someone doing some low impact filming, you know, no sense in them getting caught up in a fee system designed for commercial operators. So there were just a couple of really small fixes like that, but I intentionally left aside anything that really gets into sort of a deep evaluation of best practices for film permitting, because I just don't have the time, and I thought it was important that we start 2018 on the right foot and see if we can recover some of the revenues that and kind of go back out to the film scout community and explain the town's policy to them, and hopefully they'll come back. So that's the summary, and the town board's had this item to look at and view. I encourage the town board to take action on it. We do have a public hearing. If there's any questions from me right now from town board members, I'm happy to try to clarify them. Otherwise, we'll just go straight to the public hearing.
I do have a comment about the filming. And one of the things that are mentioned are the unincorporated parts of Orangetown. And they have grown tremendously and done great work with
Did you mean to
filming.
say incorporated?
Unincorporated.
The unincorporated, so that's everywhere except for the villages.
Right, and I
Okay.
think the villages should be able to control their own filming because
Mhm.
they've done a terrific job and they have grown successfully. So I'd like to see that the villages are able to stay at the helm because the way the law is written now, I almost act as a middleman and I don't believe it's necessary.
This law, the revision clarifies that town law applies to the unincorporated parts of Orangetown, and it does not apply within the villages. They have their own film permitting process, and if it's Nyack and they need police support, then they work that out. But I don't think the town has any business issuing film permits in Piermont or Nyack without those governments having a...
John, what is
Yeah.
your suggestion? Because I think Piermont and the villages should not have to come and
They
ask-
don't, and this law does not say that they do.
Right.
In fact, it
So
clarifies that they don't.
That's the, well, the clarification is, I think, an excellent one, because I've asked for this going back probably almost 20 years, and I think they're able to handle their own
Mhm.
filming. So I think this is, just to let the people know that this is an excellent interpretation of the new law.
Okay. Thanks for that clarification on that, because it is an important recognition of the role of the village governments in their own filming, and it is pretty popular, especially in Nyack and Piermont.
Andy, could you just clarify number 27?
I'm gonna ask for comments during our public hearing on the question of the revisions to the town's film permit law. Are there any hands going up, folks who want to speak to this matter? Yes, Ms. Hurley?
If you answer that, clarifying 27.
Are you talking about item 27? All right, that's coming later.
Heather Hurley, Pearl River. I just had a couple of comments about letter F. I've worked for many years in the TV and film industry and on production sets and things like that. So regarding call times for productions, the time limit that's set here, it's kind of unrealistic towards the end of the week. The way film and TV crews work is that they normally go on like a 12-hour production day. So by the time it rolls around to Friday, their call time might not be until 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they have 12 hours to film to 1 a.m. So, not to take away revenue from the town, but I just think that there may be a different structure that can be set up so that it also is welcoming, and it allows film and TV crews to say, oh, okay, well, we have this 12-hour window, but if you're limiting it to ending at 7 p.m. on a Friday, sometimes their call times don't even start till 1,
Just
4
to
o'clock.
clarify, we're not changing any aspect of that part of the permit. So the film permitting currently, there's a certain fee for daytime hours, and there's a fee for either after 7 at night or really early in the morning. That system has existed. It hasn't generated controversy, and there may be a better way of doing it, but the proposal here was not to change that.
Okay, I just saw the underline to the way the fee is regarding the time, so that's why I thought it was relevant to bring that up.
Well, it's relevant. It's just that it was kind of just a clarifying. Right now, there's a fee for filming during the day, and there's a fee if you need to go until later hours. Right.
Okay, that was all my only comment. Thank you.
Additional, and this is not less than we can charge more.
Right. And the idea is for the fees, generally speaking, to be set as a minimum, or just say there is a fee and the town board can adopt a fee schedule every few years as it feels necessary due to inflation or changes. So is there anybody else here to speak on the film permit question? Are you not seeing any hands?
Did we address in the film law how much filming will be done at one residence? Because I think that's an important item.
There are a number of items like that, and for example, the frequency of filming can be an issue which is regulated. Our current law, and none of the, I haven't proposed any changes to that because I feel like it really does require further conversation, and I wanted to come out of the box with a simple revision that would kind of get us on our feet. So the question of restricting frequency of film permits in a certain neighborhood or street, it's well-worn terrain. Other places have done it. Maybe the town board should look into that. It takes some further research, I think, to come up with the best system. But I agree with you. It's a topic worth considering.
Well, because I do remember that when Mr. Shanahan came in and it was a problem, he was a resident. It was filming at his residence. He was not a filmmaker. They seem to be very happy with our relationship. However, I will work closely with the chief in doing any grunt work and him taking over this particular item.
Thank you. I didn't see any other public comments. I think we've discussed it. Any questions or concerns from the town board? Not seeing any. Moving on with our agenda. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing and proceed to a vote on this item. We have a second. All in favor for closing the public hearing?
Aye.
The ayes have it. The next item, number 6, is the adoption of the local law amending Chapter 14C of the filming. The underlines show the new stuff, the cross-outs show the old stuff. There really isn't that many of it. Actually, my understanding is that question of lead agency is different for something, it's just permitting. But John, can you clarify that for me? Because there's this kind of dangling item here, number 7, declare lead agency with no text under it.
You can do it when you do the code.
Which would presumably have to happen before the town board actually votes on adopting the law.
I didn't draft the law. I don't know why there's no text, but it's fairly simple. You can choose to proceed as a coordinated review, which would delay the adoption and require circulation, or you can do it in an uncoordinated. This type of law, given the nature of the changes, there are no other involved agencies, and so the 30-day delay for coordinated review really doesn't make sense. So my suggestion would be that you make a motion. You make a motion to declare the town board lead agency under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. Conclude that this is an unlisted action, and if you so determine that there's no significant environmental, adverse environmental impact, and therefore issue a negative declaration.
I'll just repeat that for the benefit of our town clerk. I'll make a motion for the town board to take lead agency status on the adoption of these amendments to town permitting for filming, that we declare it an unlisted action under SECRA, that we recognize upon full review of any and all environmental impacts that there are no significant adverse environmental impacts, so that we'll be making a negative declaration under SECRA. I'll make the motion. To have a second. Second from Tom. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Then we move on to the next item, which is the adoption of local law. Resolved, town board here approves, and it has the law all written out with the bits and pieces that are to be added or subtracted in it all the way down through. Move from Tom Divney, second over here. Jerry, you want to second it?
I'll second.
Paul, second it. Any discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Okay, that takes care of filming. Now we're up to the outside counsel, which pertaining to environmental regulation, which we had discussed earlier, and Councilman Divney had described a bit of the background to that question, so I think we're ready to go ahead with this. Do I hear a motion to approve the hiring of outside counsel with the fees not to exceed $35,000? Move from Divney, second over here from Batari. Yes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Can you sign off on that, or do you want me to sign anything? We just got to sign the retainer agreement.
Okay.
So I can email that over to them so we can start working on it. Yeah, just right there. Thank you. All right.
All right. I got to put my name in there. Number 9 is the defeasance of outstanding bond from the purchase of Rockland Psych Center and refinancing that takes place subsequent to that. Folks can read this in detail if they'd like, but the main point of it is that the town succeeded in selling some heavily burdened land for about $7.5 million bucks. And the bond, the debt from the town's original purchase of that land can be paid off with a portion of the sale proceeds. So this authorizes our Director of Finance to engage the services of an escrow agent and other work related to the defeasance of the bonds. I'll make a motion for this. Do I have a second over here from Valentine? All in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Number 10 is a resolution from the town clerk's office listing documents that have been received and filed officially, and there are 4 listed. Jerry Vitari, want to make a motion to recognize this, accept and file? I'll make a second. All in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Number 11 is appointing a hearing officer, William Sherwood, pursuant to civil service law of the state of New York with respect to a disciplinary charge against employee number 1321. The hearing officer is directed to conduct a hearing, make findings of fact, issue a recommendation of guilt or innocence, along with a recommendation for a penalty, if appropriate, to the town board. Be it further resolved that the town board approves the compensation of the hearing officer at a rate of $225 an hour for services rendered. Do I have a motion for this resolution? Over here, Valentine, second from Divney. All in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Number 12 is the approval of contract with City Software. This enables our fire inspectors to do their work in the field and automate parts of it. I'll make a motion for this. Second over here from Vitari. All in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Number 13, several of them actually are caretaker agreements. The town owns a couple of cottages or small residential houses, and they're leased out to town employees who have agreements that these resolutions reflect. They are small rent hikes and agreement to maintain the property. Number 13 is for the property located at 1 Nike Lane. Move from Divney, second from Vitari. All in favor say aye. Number 14 is 212 North Main Street in Pearl River, otherwise known as Borst Park. I'll make a motion for this. Paul Valentine will second. All in favor say aye. It's nice to have town employees there keeping an eye on things too. Number 15 is a memorandum of understanding with the New York Sharks regarding pool use. I'll make a motion for this. Tom Divney will second. All in favor say aye. Number 16, this is agreement with High Tor Animal Shelter, the annual agreement so that the townsfolk can bring their animals, and our animal control officers can bring animals, mostly dogs and cats. And I just want to encourage folks, if you're looking to have a pet, to go up to the shelter and check out those options first. I'll make a motion for the approval of this contract. Do I hear a second from Tom Divney? All in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Number 17, this is a agreement for dry cleaning, laundering, and minor sewing and repairs to police department uniforms over the next year or so. I'll make a motion for this. Jerry Bertaro, second. All in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Number 18 is accepting another bid for the furnishing of police department uniforms. And now move from Divney, second from myself. All in favor say aye. Number 19, creating the position of assistant automotive mechanic in the highway department. Do I hear a motion for this one? Over here from Divney, second from Valentine. All in favor say aye. You guys have it. 20 is the installation of a stop sign at Old Mountain Road. No doubt pursuant to the recommendation of the Orangetown Traffic Advisory Board, which with the police and the highway department and others does a great job of reviewing these safety issues and recommending to the town board changes. Motion from Tom Divney, second from Jerry Bertari. All in favor say aye. Got a new stop sign in town. Number 21, amendment to the TRC contract. This is a change order. Tom, would you like to describe this? Because I'm not sure what the changes are.
Well,
You've been kind of riding this horse.
It was originally, TRC was hired to do sampling and odor, and then we wanted clarification, and they wrote a couple of reports for us and analyzed the data that wasn't in the original. So this is just approving the additional monies for that. And again, they will be doing additional sampling, but when this board hired them, we really wanted them to do the sampling after they had complied with the ZBA performance standards. So that's something that I guess Jane and I will have to discuss. If we want to get them in January, or we want to wait for sampling, you know.
Wait, so you get a before and after?
Yeah,
When
but
presumably
we don't really have that because
it's not fixed
They're
yet.
not. It's not fixed yet. But this is just to cover additional services.
All right, you want to make a motion for this one, Tom?
I'll make a motion.
You want to do second over here? Yep. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Number 22, as folks know, we have gotten the concept of a new town hall to replace this aged building, kind of on track by having architects review and propose a conceptual level plan for how we could rebuild on this site in a building that would be good for another 100 years or so, bringing the building department and the fire inspectors in. The town board has heard presentations on this topic, reviewed various scenarios and cost estimates, and it will be a little while before anybody's in a position to actually commission an architectural design or kind of move forward in a way that serious money gets spent. But in order to know best what the town's options are, we have mutual architects, and they need to finish up their contract with the town, which essentially is they've presented us with scenarios. The town board has reviewed, picked one that everybody thinks makes the most sense to hash out in a more detailed way so that we can present the public with a concept drawing that shows the footprint and the kind of allocation of interior space and the conceptual design. It's my understanding of the various scenarios proposed that scenario number 7 had the most, I think it was unanimous support. Is that correct? I know.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
don't
sure.
remember, yes. we all
Yes,
agree.
7 is the
Yeah.
one.
It was
With atrium
between
down
4
7.
and 7, and I think 7 had the majority of
A
the.
little bit extra support there for number 7. So I'm going to put number 7 in there, select scheme 7 as the basis for additional space schematics to be provided by Musel Group, and further directs the director of our building department to coordinate this effort. And it's been great having Jane Slavin involved along with our engineering department and town staff to look at these concepts and kind of make some very preliminary determinations as to what would best serve the needs of the public in the form of a rebuilt town hall. So I'll make a motion for this one. Do I have a second over here from Paul Valentine? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. So at some point early in the year, I guess, I don't know what the time frame, Vicky, is, but the town board will be able to see a more detailed version of Scheme 7. 23 is a tax cert for a modest sum of money. And it lists the school district. And I'll make a motion for this. Jerry, you want to second it? All in favor, say aye. The ayes have it. Number 24 is accepting a donation from the John M. Perry Post for a monument or plaque in Spark Hill Memorial Park, and it's wonderful that the group plays a role in maintaining and beautifying that park in memory of people who have served. The new monument will be installed to the north of the flagpole and of the existing monuments, and will honor the men and women who served in the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. Paul, you want to make a motion for this one?
Absolutely, I'm a member of that Perry Post.
Great. So thank them for us, okay?
Absolutely.
So we have a motion from Paul Valentine, a second from Tom Divany. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Number 25 is the appointment. We have some police appointments, actually, and is Chief Nolte here? Yeah, Chief Nolte, could you come up and advise the board on this matter, please? I know that the process of filling vacancies in the police department there's a number of steps required, and you're asking us to move things along a little bit tonight with regard to several potential candidates. And I know there's some others out there as well who might not be listed here but are also under consideration. So maybe you could just talk to the board a little bit about what this decision means.
Well, for the past several months, the police department has been reviewing resumes for a person to fill the position of records management and information services supervisor in the police department. It had to be a person who had a knowledge of technology and a person who could kind of take our paper-driven system and make it more in sync with today's technology. And we're happy to report that after an interview panel looked at the candidates that applied, that we arrived at Rafat Mansour as an Orangeburg resident as the most appropriate candidate to fill the position at this time.
Yeah, actually, I was actually thinking about, while you're up the podium, we should talk a little bit about also the police officer nominations a little further down the page there.
Yeah, I know a little bit. You also have the next one would be Brian Connolly for the supervisor of park enforcement. Well, that position vacated earlier this year, and we looked at a number of candidates. And Brian Connolly is a Orangetown resident, a former first-grade detective with the White Plains Police Department. After interviewing him and seeing his concept toward, performing these duties, the panel thought he would be the best candidate to take this part-time job over come January. Regarding the police department had a number of vacancies throughout 2016. In sync with that, the thing is, new police officers list came out during the summer. So we had to actually, kind of, with all these vacancies at the beginning of the year, kind of interview candidates. We have 13 candidates we were looking at. They're broken up into two categories. One would be police officers who are serving in other departments that have academy training. The other would be people who want to enter the police service at entry level. And after we looked at all the candidates, we arrived at 4 candidates that we think would be the best people for appointment at this time. And they're the people who are listed on the agenda.
Would this complete all of fill all the vacancies? Or this actually just sends what happens after this decision?
Okay, what would happen is this would send their names back to the Rockland County Department of Personnel, where they'd have to complete a medical, psychological, and the remaining parts of their background check with the FBI check, which is something we help them with, okay? The reason why these 4 candidates were selected is that the police academy will start in the first week in February. So in order so that these candidates can be cleared with the other parts of the personnel process and start the academy with what I would call certified by the county, it was important that we got them up there, it's like 6 weeks away, as soon as possible. And I think we all know in the end of December, things kind of slowed down a little bit. Because it's our hope that as they quit their jobs and as they move on with their life, that we can have them in a position before they start the academy that they're totally clear to start their police training, which will take 20 weeks, if not 22 weeks, because we're adding some segments that would be beneficial to the town. One would be they'll be trained in patrol rifles and other aspects of radar enforcement, whatever, things that aren't automatically taught in the academy. So we're hoping by June to have these officers out of the academy, and then they'll go through a 12-week field training in September. They will then start. The next group of candidates, which we hope to have to you by the next town board meeting, would be officers that have prior service, who, once they're approved and hired, will be able to start once they complete a field training program. So that was the logic behind that.
When are they officially hired?
They're officially hired after they pass the psychological, medical. It won't be to 2018. In fact, if we're lucky, it will be in January 2018. But
I mean, I have no problem, but I would like to add, at the end of it, and settlement of the Orangetown PBA contract, because we are getting very close, and part of the discussions is that new officers will be have different salary structure, and I don't want to hire anyone officially until the PBA contract is settled.
Well, they will not be officially hired until the board actually, I bring their names before you one more time, showing that they can be certified by the Rockland County personnel.
So we don't need that language, you'll come to us.
Yeah, I will come to you. That's been a normal protocol.
All right.
And the thing is, I think Councilman Patari asked me this. There's a good chance that even if we can get this process going, that the ones with the prior service may come in about the same time, if not sooner, because they'll all probably be tested after the first of the year, I would think.
Yeah,
Even though I've been in touch with personnel.
The police officers that are being looked at, if we could step up theirs and get them tested the same way, these young men will not be on the road until October of 18, whereas we do have people retiring in the beginning, and at least the other two would be on by the parade, hopefully.
Yeah,
So-
well, I'll tell you, they'll be working the parade because we'll just put them out for the field training.
Chief, what are we down at, 77 officers?
We're down to 77. This brings us up to 83. And, not that I apologize, I just tell you, it takes a long time to really get a background done because we're expecting, to get back military records and, college transcripts, and the officers go and interview former bosses and develop contacts. So it takes a while to get it done.
Is that 77 plus the text that we received today? Or we're really 76?
It will be as of December, we will have 77, but in theory, until August of next year, we have an officer being deployed to the military. We will have 76, but we will have, he'll be on the books, of course.
Yes.
Okay, that's the importance, in my mind, that's the importance of getting these two that are prior police officers now, getting them out on the road. Because they'll once we hire them, 8 weeks, and they're out on their own.
I would
So
hope that, we have a police commission meeting on you have the reorganization meeting on the 2nd. I would hope that by the 9th of January, at the police commission meeting, if the board wants to hold a special meeting, that we be in a position, because they're probably like 90% done, okay?
To hire all 6.
Yeah, they've been interviewed by our background investigators and everything. This week, we'll be meeting them just to talk to them again, but luckily we have good candidates. They've proven to probably be good candidates. So I think they all could be on the same path toward an appointment about the same time. But the ones like you said, would be on the road quicker.
Absolutely, yeah, because we have 2 more leaving the beginning of the year, correct?
Maybe.
Okay, you never know.
So we hear.
Say maybe to me, well, it took me a long time, but,
Okay.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Nolte. So on item number 25, the appointment of the Information Services and Records Management Specialist, I'll make a motion for this. Jerry Patari, second. All in favor, say aye. The ayes have it. Number 26, appointment of Brian Connolly, Supervisor Parking Enforcement. Motion here. Deputy Second Valentine, all in favor, say aye. Number 27, nomination of Paul Valentine, Police Officer. I'll make a motion for this. I have a second over here. Divany, all in favor, say aye. The ayes have it.
I'm recusing myself.
With the recusal of Councilman Valentine. Number 28, Mark Myers, Police Officer. Make a motion for this. Jerry, second. All in favor, say aye. The ayes have it. Number 29, Luke Graney, Police Officer. Divany will make a motion. Valentine, second. All in favor, say aye. Number 30, James Gashia. Moved from Divany, second from myself. All in favor, say aye. Number 31 is the authorization, this is coming from our wastewater treatment plant, GHD, for the price of $73,400 to provide a professional service to help the town comply with new DEC requirements regarding cleaning up all of the chlorine coming out of the final effluent. The chlorine is used to kill pathogens and then is removed, and now it has to be removed down to an even stricter standard. And this is going to require engineering, and that's what the Commissioner of Engineering wants us to hire GHD to do. I'll make a motion for this item. Do I hear a second from over here? Jerry, you want to take it? All in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Number 32.
Is this,
Okay, this is performance standards. So, as you're aware, we have Sandra Bonville, Dennis Michaels, myself, Jane Slavin, Vicky Carmonte, Alan Riff, who went home, but Deputy Supervisor Alan Riff's been very helpful on this. And of course, members of the town board reviewing and updating performance standards, specifically the standards by which things like odor, smoke, vibration, noise, particulate matter are measured kind of bringing our standards into the 21st century at some level. It's been very detailed work. It is not finished yet. The goal of this resolution would be to do the following. We had set a town board hearing for December 5th. This is kind of going, it was amended for today.
Adjourned to today, and now we're setting for February 6th.
And but do we need to actually have a hearing today? For this? No. Okay, thanks for that.
It's February 6th.
We want to make sure that we provide ample opportunity for the public to comment, and for anybody who might potentially be affected by the performance standards to weigh in as to their advisability. And to that end, make a resolution here to set February 6th, 2018 at 8:05 for a public hearing on the proposed law.
We doing roll call or no?
Do we need a roll call?
No, we don't need a roll call.
Oh, well, we got one written down here, actually.
I second it.
I'll make a motion for that. I have a second from Tom Divany, and it is written down here as a roll call.
But I don't think we need a roll call.
You don't?
No.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Except bid.
This also, it includes the lead agency for the town and the circulation and stuff like that. All right.
Showmobile.
This is, this-
Bob, I apologize because they did ask me to read something into the record about the acceptance of taxes from the Association of Towns. Periodically, questions are raised by town officials about the propriety of other officials, for example, the supervisor, town clerk, accepting from taxpayers payment by check or cash when a tax collecting officer's office is closed for whatever reason. There is no authority for anyone other than the tax collecting officer to receive tax payments. The warrant is directed to and authorizes only the collecting officer to collect and receive the taxes. When other officials do so as an accommodation, they are acting with any authority. Moreover, in doing so, they may jeopardize the collector's office's official undertaking bond and can cause complications in record keeping, timely payments, and possible loss of funds. It should not be done.
thank you. We were right in the middle of talking about the showmobile, and I think just to get back on a little bit on track here, we got a grant to buy a new showmobile, which is a very popular piece of equipment used for events by the Parks Department. It's really wonderful to have one, and we're going to get a new one. And the winning bidder is Wenger for $136,000 and change. I'll make a motion for this.
Second.
Second from Divany. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Let's see.
We got a warrant.
We do have a warrant.
You do, but before you do that, I have a correction to the change order for TRC. The amount that was in the resolution was wrong.
Oops.
All right.
What item is that?
Well, 'cause it was a crazy day. So TRC gave us, you'll see in the backup, a listing of the fees that the services that they provided. Suffice it to say, the entire change order should be $2,308, not the $8,300 that is in the original resolution. So I don't know if you need to amend the resolution.
Can you just remind me the item number? There we go. So you're saying the change order, instead of being $8,338, is what?
It's $2,308.00.
Oh.
All right. On the amended motion.
Well, okay, just amend it. Amend it. We're amending it from item number 21 from $338 to $2,000.
I'm sorry, my apologies, I read it wrong, $5,458. There's an add and deduct in the way she wrote out the table. So for all of the items, it should be $5,458. And that's what's in the backup information.
Okay, thank you, Vicki. I really
My
appreciate your.
apologies.
No, don't apologize. You've been really diligent, and we appreciate the catch. So the amendment is to $5,458. We had a motion from Tom Divany, second from myself. All in favor, say aye. Aye. So that resolution has just been amended.
And before we do the vouchers, I don't know if there's one more item of new business that we can either discuss as a point of information or vote on. So there are these proposed change orders through the streetlight conversion contract. We don't usually do change orders as a matter of town board discussion, but I felt that in light of the change in administration, it was probably a good idea for me to at least get up and kind of report out what the conversation had been with Guth DeConzo and...
For streetlights.
Yes, and Albright. So there are a couple of different options. One, first of all, is to allow Albright to trim the trees as they go along. A lot of times there's a branch or two that's in the way of the fixture so that they can either, that it's in the way of the actual replacement of the fixture or it's in the way of the sensor once the new head is on. And so they're quoting us a price, a conservative 100 street light fixtures would be $15,000 to do the trimming as they go along. They've already sort of started that, so we would at least have to pay for the couple that they've already done, I think about 10. The second proposed change order is...
this would be both of them by Hellman.
Right, and
Albright
I'll
Electric.
talk about the way the contract was set in the first place. The second change order would be the decorative lighting for the Hamlet Centers in Tapan and Pearl River, the Central Business District. Also, the parking lots in Pearl River. There was in the original bid, we asked that they include contingency to allow for those lights to be converted. The lead time on those lights to order them is about 4 months. So they're asking for the board or the supervisor to allow that they move forward with getting pricing and ordering for those streetlights so that they can make those changes as well. And then the third one is GPS locating, geotagging each of the streetlights with a photograph. In a lot of cases, they're finding that either the pole doesn't have a number on it, the pole number is wrong, the pole location is not where it says it was supposed to be. I have to say I'm surprised that O&R has kept such great records. But that's what they've been encountering. So for the first item, so the original contract that the town board agreed to, the total construction budget was $1,467,787 and change. The contract commitments to date are about $504,000 without those change orders. The two change orders, the GPS and the tree trimming, would add $41,193, already kind of assigned to this $1.4 million. And then the decorative lights, they would have to get us a price on, but they would like authorization to move forward with all of that. And I have all the backup information and a memo that goes along with this for everybody to read.
Two things. Maybe the board has seen it, but 15,000 covers what?
Trimming the branches
For the
for the trees where the
258 lights.
100 lights.
Well, they're not anticipating having to trim more than about
It is surprisingly
100
expensive.
lights.
So my question is it 15,000 for 100 lights? That's divided.
It's $156 a light.
$156 a light with the potential. I mean, have they examined the locations of the 2,200 plus lights?
They have not. This is kind of as you go along. The complication becomes if they are not authorized to trim the branches, then they have to wait for the town to send somebody to go and trim those branches.
But is that necessary in order for the lights to function, or going forward because the branches may cover the senses, and is that something that we need them to do?
In some cases, it's to clear the branches away from the sensors so that the light does not remain on during the daylight hours. In some cases, it's to clear the branches away so the technician can get to the head and make the change out efficiently and safely.
Seems like an awful 15 for 100 lights. Where I haven't seen it. So where are they in the process?
They've
That 100 is,
They've replaced about 400 lights so far, generally in the residential areas where the lower wattage fixtures are assigned, out of 2,200 and change.
so 100 out of 400.
No, this is the entire proposal that they expect to only have to trim 100 trees, branches, locations.
That's different.
So I guess my question would be, right, twofold. First, Orange and Rockland retained all those lights for all these years, and I guess they were in charge of trimming it. And if you go around, everywhere you go, you see them trimming the heck out of anything near any power line. And these lights are on the opposite side of the pole facing the street, so you would think they would be on the opposite side of where they already trimmed, so I'm surprised that this is a problem. And second, it's winter, so there's no leaves on any of the trees unless it's an evergreen. So it's not gonna stop the light from working now, and this sounds like it's gonna be an ongoing situation where the lights keep growing over the photocells. Who trimmed that in the past, Jimmy? Orange and Rockland did, right? Is that now our responsibility? I guess so, huh? Now that we own the fixtures.
Well, I don't think that that's necessarily, I mean, maybe it is because, are there sensors on the existing lights? Is that how they
Yes.
work?
Yes.
Well,
They
that
all
might-
work by
They always
sensor.
had sensors.
Okay, so that might account for, you know, why they're out and, you know.
So that's the report.
That's the report. I think he was saying the town board doesn't necessarily vote on this stuff usually, but if you want to weigh in on it or you want to follow up with us tomorrow, find out more about it. It's not a lot of money, but there's some open questions as to the timing and the purpose of these change
Part 3 of that,
orders.
I feel very uncomfortable voting on before they give me a price. So I don't know, they want to expedite it to get the
All right, so
decorative lights, but
the earliest that they can get a quote on light fixtures for those decorative lights would be for the January round. I wanted to get as much information tonight because my tenure is terminating. I wanted to sort of wrap up as much as I could before next week.
I appreciate
But that's fine, and I'll let them know that we want to get that information before moving forward with the rest. One of the other things that they suggested is that since there is a good amount of contingency left over so far, half of the budget essentially, if there are locations that the town feels where lighting should be added, there's a stretch of 303 north of Erie where there are no streetlights. There are 3 requests that we've gotten over the past 4 weeks to add streetlight fixtures. Those will go to the Traffic Advisory Board per the town board policy. It's just something to think about, and I'll reach out to Jim and to Chief Nolte and everybody to make sure that if there are some locations that the town would want to consider, that that's something going forward to consider as part of this contract.
great, thank you.
You're welcome. And if anybody, as Esther has been asking about, the higher wattage street lights, which will be installed on the main roads like 340, 303, et cetera, those light fixtures are en route from California. They're expected Friday, probably actually Wednesday by the time all is said and done. And then the contractor, Albright, will map that all out and go back and start installing those lights. We have made 340 in front of Venture our top priority.
Thank you so much, Vicki.
You're welcome.
Appreciate all the project management on that. The audit, please.
Andy, before, the chief has 2 items that didn't make the agenda.
Oops.
The first one would be, I think somewhere along, maybe because of the new system, although we gave this down, it did not end up on the agenda. But it's kind of simple. Myself and John have been working on this for a while. It's to authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement with the County of Rockland regarding the assignment of an Orangetown police detective to the Regional Investigative Resource Center for the years 2016 and 2017. That will allow us to get money back from the County of Rockland regarding our officer who's assigned up there to asset forfeiture. Now, somewhere along the way, I think we just got some confusion. We thought it was going to be on tonight. I went to check earlier, and the agenda wasn't done, so I did not check.
The motion From myself, do I hear a second over here? Divany, all in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Thank you, Chief Nolte.
Okay, the second would be a matter which I sent you an email about, a disciplinary matter. Would you like to address that tonight? You have the stipulation. It was on the workshop.
Yeah, I move to accept your
Okay.
stipulation.
All right, you want to read it, or you like me to? Okay. Okay, so you want, I'll give you the wording for it, okay?
All right, Janice.
Wait, we didn't vote on that one yet.
Okay, that's the wording.
Oh, this is the, disciplinary stipulation of settlement with employee number 2637. All right, so we had a motion from you.
Yeah, but just, I guess,
On the terms of the Rockland County Police Act of 1936, as amended, authorize the chief of police to sign a disciplinary stipulation of settlement with employee number 2637.
Move.
Motion for Divany, second from Patari. All in favor, say aye. The ayes have it.
All right, you want it.
And we also voted on that county funding of the police officer. All right, Janice, we're ready for you now.
Okay, tonight's order consists of 2 warrants, a total about 1.1 million. First warrant has 83 vouchers for $298,000, which is for utilities. The second warrant has 262 vouchers for $847,000, with a few items of interest, one being Capasso and Sons for $48,000 for recycling, LSAG North America, which is for the police license plate readers, for $31,000. Environmental construction for $25,000 for emergency sewer repair. Franklin Miller for $30,000 for replacement grinders for the RPC pumping stations. Gabriella Truck Sales for $306,000 for our highway vehicles. Let's see. South Orangetown Central School District for $46,000 for their pool rental. And Van Bortle Ford for police vehicles for $24,000. I don't know if there's any more.
Motion for Divany, second from Patari. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Thank you, Janice. Make sure we get this back. All right. With that, I think we're ready to adjourn this meeting. I'll make a motion for adjournment in the memory of 2 individuals, one being the former Orangetown Police Department Administrative Lieutenant William E. Schnackenberg, who passed away recently. He was a veteran, a graduate of the FBI National Academy and of Nyack High School. And secondly, of David Janes, a Nyack firefighter who passed away very recently while responding to an incident in Nyack. So our hearts go out to both of these families.
Dennis O'Leary, who is the father-in-law of Greg Michelle and works for the sewer department.
In the names of these individuals, I'll make a motion that we adjourn this meeting tonight. Do I have a second? Sorry. Joe. Sorry, Joe. Right under the wire.
Sorry to interrupt the adjournment, but I feel compelled to make a statement of fact with no offense intended to a resident that mentioned how the DEC handles sewer spills and fines. I do want to say that they are very diligent in their oversight of our spill reports, and we have received violations for some spills with mandatory follow-up conditions, but we have never received a fine for a spill in the 6 years that I've been with the town. The one fine we received was an order on consent at the Nyack pump station that was for $5,000, and that's why we did all the work, the $3 million of the sewer lining. That was a condition of that fine, and we had very stringent milestones that we needed to meet as a condition of that. But that is the only fine that we did receive, and I thought it was important for the public to know that.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. We're right in the middle of the adjournment. I think we had a motion from myself and a second from Tom Divany. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Thanks, Tom.